I always tell people growing up in a house where your mother and father play music is a great blessing because there's always music in the house. There's always, and of course there's always company too. We had a lot of company. At home we still had family. Uncle Joe lived next door and he would come up and we'd have family gatherings and I played enough fiddle to picked up tunes along the way, and Daddy and I'd play together, and we had a lot of time playing together, and I really treasure those times. Daddy, of course, had a lot of friends who were fiddlers, people like Tommy Jackson, played with Ray Price, and Mac McGahey played with Porter Wagner, Louis Dunn, who was kind of a studio musician around town, and fiddlers have a real fraternity. They really enjoy one another because they're all so different. I mean, my father would always say there's no such thing, there can't be any such thing as the greatest fiddler who ever lived, because they're all stylists. I mean, you love one fiddler for this type of thing, you love another fiddler for another type of thing, and they're all fun to listen to, and they all have their style. My father was a very fortunate man because he told me when he had rheumatic fever and his mother would come in and play the banjo.
Uncle Bob played fiddle, and Howard and Floyd Pruitt, he played guitar too with us along, and we played square dances down only, and I always liked to see them run around the circle of the dance.
Then once he heard Uncle Bob play the fiddle, that was it. He put the banjo down, and that's all he wanted to do was play the fiddle. Uncle Bob totally influenced him about playing the fiddle. He wanted to play with Uncle Bob. And he would go play square dances with Uncle Bob when he could sit in a chair and his feet wouldn't even touch the floor. And he loved that, and he told me, he said, I'd go to school, but he said I'd sit there in school and said I couldn't hear anything but those fiddle tunes going through my head. So it's very fortunate when you know what you're supposed to do in life. And I envy people like that who know from a very young age, this is what I'm cut out to do. And he had the talent to back up his dream to do it. My earliest memories of Hickman County is coming down to his cousin Floyd Pruitt's house. Before interstates then, it was like an all-day trip. I mean, it was like a long trip to me to come from Nashville all the way down here. And but we'd come down early, and then we'd have a nice. His wife would fix one of those big country dinners. I mean, there's just nothing like that. And then they'd play music. Of course, they'd play music all afternoon. I'd go out, and me and Robert Harrell, Floyd's son, we'd go out and run all over the hills. We had it seemed like an entire state, entire national park to play in. I mean, we'd climb every hill in Hickman County, and then while the adults would be in playing the music. And then as I got older, I'd play some music. I'd stay in and play music as I grew up. He's been dead 22 years, and I listen to him now, listen to his records, and listen to him with a certain objective distance. And for the moment, I can forget about for a few moments that he was my father, and just kind of listen to him as a musician. And my God, he's great. I mean, he's as good as people have told me he was through the years. I mean, I hear it for myself now, but you have to get a little distance, I think, to appreciate that. And I really appreciate his talent and what he had, such a tremendous talent.